Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy podcast. You have now entered the next level. Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy Next Level podcast. I have a special guest, Mr. Alex Mansfield from Manny Talk Shooting. So you guys, I actually joined his podcast not that long ago. So now I'm bringing him onto mine. And it's been a very, 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 very busy month for me. So I figured I'd catch up with you guys a little bit. I'm a little bit behind on some of my podcasts because I've been traveling around so much. So Alex, how you been, brother?
I'm doing good. I feel like recovering from the weekend.
So you've had a very busy month as well.
Yeah, it's been pretty much nonstop.
You've had you've worked Buckeye Blast, which is in Ohio. Yes. What was that? 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, about 3 weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Yep. Buckeye Blast. And then you also worked Area 5, but you were a much bigger part of Area 5 than you were Buckeye Blast, right? At Buckeye Blast, you were just a standard RO or
Yeah, so yeah, for Buckeye Blast, I just worked a stage. I was a CRO on my stage. But then for Area 5, half of the match I was assisting with stats, and then due to the lack of staff at the end, by the time the match rolled around, I got through on the largest bay, and we crushed it though. After we figured it out, after like the first two squads, we crushed it. So
you were on the hated squad, the stage. Everybody hated that stage. I like that stage actually, even though it was hard. But I like hard stuff, so I like hard shit like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one too, and we'll probably talk more about it later.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
I just thought it was hilarious that everybody they just instantly hate that bay is definitely like the nightmare of Area 5. Like it's always the worst bay, the hardest stage. It's your biggest bay at that match. So we'll definitely get into that more, but because I definitely want to kind of compare some of this year versus last year at Area 5. But let's start off with Buckeye Blast first, because that was the first time we've actually ever shot together too. Was Buckeye, right?
yeah, we met in person for the first time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That was a good match. That was a very well ran match that had there's definitely something going on in Ohio and Michigan with one-handed Virginia count 25-yard bombs for shooting. And I'm interested in why.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I guess everyone wants to test certain skills.
Right.
And as you know from like last year, Area 5, we pretty much had the same stage again, but they changed it to fixed time, which is a little bit different, but pretty much the same concept. But it didn't hurt as many feelings, I think.
Right. Well, I'm proud to say that I actually won that stage overall with the pistol. I'm the only pistol. I won it with pistol. So I'm excited about that because Virginia count has been a son of a bitch for me in the last couple of matches. So I'm glad that I could remember how to count, and I shot really well with one hand. So I was like, yay, I did it.
Yeah. And it definitely wasn't as punitive this time because it didn't have a slasher back there as well. So at least you had two open paper in the back.
Yeah, he put this. What's funny though, the slasher hasn't bothered me at all. I've actually did well on those. The one that killed me was the tuxedo, and they put that back in there, and I actually got all of them. I had 4 alphas on that, so I was happy about that. So if anybody who hasn't shot last year's Area 5 or this year's Area 5, they had a stage set up to where there was 25-yard targets, 3 set up, and you're in one box, and then you had to reload, mandatory reload, run to the right or run to the left, whichever one you started in. And then the closer targets, what were those? About 12, 15 yards, you think?
Maybe 10.
Maybe 10. Yeah, they seemed a lot closer because the other ones were so far away.
Mm-hmm.
But they all had really tight no shoots on them. So they gave you basically a head box in the A zone above the no shoots is what they basically gave you. So maybe a quarter of the target for the A if you're lucky. Mm-hmm. So we shot, I chose to shoot the far targets with strong hand and the closer targets with weak hand. And I actually shot all alphas on the no shoot targets with freestyle and weak hand. And then I had, I guess I only had one Charlie, a couple Charlies, and then I had a Delta, which I think I actually shot that freestyle like a dumbass trying to transition. So it was on a wide open target, or I would have had a mic, obviously. But I shooting that stage, the only thing I didn't like that they did, and there's a few things about the Michigan match that Area 5 that I didn't like that they changed, was when they made it a no penalty mics. When they made it a par time, they took away the mics. And I was like, dude, like that is kind of part of the skill. So now guys just kind of freely shot. And if they had a mic, it didn't hurt their feelings. And I didn't like that part of it because I was like, that is kind of an important part of that stage, right? That can change some scores. But I know a lot of people got upset last year that the match was too hard. So
Well, yeah, and even that, like, I went to a match the weekend before Area 5, and they set up something very similar. It was a lot closer because they're bay restrictions.
right,
But I didn't think the Virginia count was too punitive.
right.
Even with it being like five, well, let's see, the back targets were probably about 5 yards closer.
Yeah.
So, and still, I mean, I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah. It was I think when they changed the targets in the back, it made it a lot less painful because they didn't do all slashers. I mean, I don't think last year they even put an open target back there. I think it was 2 slashers and a tuxedo, if I remember correctly. Because I think
No,
did they give you an open target?
yeah, so the leftmost target was open paper,
Okay.
tux,
So, and then a
slasher.
slasher. Yeah. Okay. So they were a little nicer this year. So that was nice. But I don't know. That was a stage that I shot pretty well last year. I had a mic last year. But this year I actually didn't have any mics. So, which was, I guess it would have been better to have that this year if I needed to have one, if I was going to have a no penalty mic. But I actually don't think that stage was as difficult as last year for sure. When they made the par time, I shot that and I actually shot the target when I shot strong hand side. I shot all the targets and I reloaded my gun and put it back in the holster and the beep went off. And I didn't shoot it like particularly fast. I just shot like my sights and I shot, pretty well, I guess. And then I saw a guy in the background yelled like, Jesus, man, the guy, he could have eaten a cheeseburger. I'm like, why am I hearing what he's saying right now instead of focusing on the next string?
Now I'm really curious of who actually said that because I knew it was on your squad, and now I'm really curious.
It wasn't Nils, if you're at or John. So it was just one of the other guys. It was funny. I had a great squad. It was funny because I don't want to say this is funny because it was tough for me sometimes because first of all, I'm shooting against John Vlager and Nils Jonassen. So obviously 2 of the best shooters in the sport, but 90% the rest of the squad was also either students or friends that I have coached. Right. So I'm like, it was very hard for me to turn off the coaching button and not try to focus on still coaching them or watching their scores or whatever. So that was not easy. So that was for sure. I mean, I ended up hanging out with Matt Kobe the whole weekend. So that was kind of cool. I haven't seen him in, I think it's been almost a year since he moved up there. So we shot together on the same squad. That was fun. He was well behaved. I didn't have to yell at him for talking too much trash. That was good.
Yeah. And I was proud to see him finish the match with his PCC, but it wasn't
guys,
also like 40 degrees out. So
right. I really enjoyed your guys' podcast together. So I really like that. It was nice to have, it was kind of nostalgia for me to hear some of the stories that he was telling and, just to kind of see Matt, like that guy's the ultimate quitter, right? He quits quitting. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like he quits quitting. And I keep telling him, I was like, dude, you can't even quit. Like it's hilarious. So he was like, man, maybe I'm going to go back and get a pistol again. I'm like, you just sold your Canic. So he's a trip.
well, he said he was going to shoot carry optics and then he sold it.
Right.
Oh.
Right. He's a trip, dude. Because he wanted to shoot carry optics because, and this is kind of what it's always been for everybody, is it really does suck to shoot a dead division. Right. And at this point, it's not dead. PCC isn't dead, but it's not very strong in his area. So, again, he's like, man, I'm shooting against 3 people. So that's not fun. When you don't really have anybody to compare yourself to, or you can't really look at your scores and, you're beating up on a revolver guy. That's not the best of, not the best things to kind of challenge yourself and do your stuff.
Yeah, I agree. That definitely sucks, especially depending on if you travel or if you stay at your own like centralized club. You only get whatever comes there. So I definitely feel his pain. For a while, there was only like 5 open shooters at our club. Now it's grown to like 13, 14. So it's at least respectable.
What are most of those guys? What's most of those shooters classifications?
Most like in open at least.
Yeah, for you, like who are you shooting against right now?
So currently, I think Walt is A, and then the rest are there's a couple B's and mostly C's.
Yeah. So do you guys? Have you ever had like a really like good GM come out of your club?
Out of there,
Yeah.
no, because people visit, but no one. There's no. well, I can't say. A couple years ago, there was a guy named John Chinchen, and he was shooting carry optics, and I think he might be the only GM in Michigan, but he doesn't actively shoot anymore because
Right.
he's a doctor now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting because I noticed where your best shooters always come out of clubs that have a lot of, really good heat,
Hmm.
a lot of good shooters. So like, I was talking to Nils and like where he's out of is out of Arizona. And I mean, he comes out of, I think it's Rio. Oh my God.
Salado.
Yeah. So, and I'm talking to him. He's like, yeah, Robbie Latham, all these guys are coming out of that place. And I'm going, you don't really have much of a choice but to get better if you really actually have a competitive bone in your body. So
Hmm.
it kind of sucks when I was talking to Matt, being in Michigan, he was like, man, it's been snowing. Like, and then if it snows, a lot of guys don't want to shoot in it, which I don't disagree, but a lot of guys won't, even if it's just like a light or a really cold day and it's not snowing, a lot of guys will just cancel the match. So it really kind of takes away from that, staying up on your game throughout those winter months. And
Yeah.
for you, like your home club is Brooklyn. Are you close to there or far from there, or how far do you live from that place?
Um, the Google Map says 52 minutes, but it's about 45 with my lead foot.
Is that your average? Is that your range that you practice at when you actually have time to get out there and practice?
I'll be honest with you, I don't go live fire practice.
We got
Well,
to
I'm
fix
telling you
that.
because you're my friend and my coach, so I got to be honest with
We
you.
got to fix some of that. You got to
I,
get some of that live fire in there.
I do, and I'm working on that. I got to figure. There's a club. Well, it's a private range, but you got to go take some Pac Timmy class to be a member there.
Right.
So, because they bought the range from the old entity, I'm like,
Okay.
but there's and it's dude, it's 2 minutes from work.
Oh yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah,
That's worth
and
the class.
yeah.
Just make sure, dude, this is how you pass the class. As soon as you get done shooting, just do this. And you're rocking. You're ready to go. Look left, look right, and you're clear, right? Or if you see a target, yell out contact, no matter what. Don't use a timer, just yell contact, and you're good to go. You're good.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
vest, get your gear on, get your kit, your helmet, your vest, you're good.
Mhm.
So yeah, so when you go to practice, because I know you it's still not cheap to shoot.
Mhm.
When you go to practice, we'll talk, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to practice. So it'll save you a fortune,
Right.
because one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? And it had nothing to do with, it really didn't have anything to do with like what I was practicing. It was just I didn't have a plan. So like I
Mhm.
was practicing exactly what I should have practiced. I just didn't know, like I was just shooting rounds. I didn't understand like, oh, I'm actually supposed to analyze like what I'm doing. Like I didn't know I was supposed to do that. I thought I was just supposed to shoot a bunch and then that's how I gain all the experience. And I'm like, whoa, that's like really dumb. Now I know that obviously, but
Right.
like I tell everybody all the time, and sometimes I feel like I just, people take this with a grain of salt because they look at me and they're like, well, you're a coach, that's why you're saying that. But the biggest mistake I ever made was I didn't take a class. I wish I would have taken a class. It would have, man, I would have had a lot of money in the bank. I could have had 3 Mark 7s by the time I took the money back that I spent trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
So
because you didn't take a Tim Herron class till 6 months ago maybe.
yeah, so I didn't even take Tim's class. I actually was hosting Tim, and I just happened to join in there for some of the things. I didn't even shoot all the drills. There was a couple times that Tim was like, "I want you to participate," and we did a couple of drills at like towards the end of the day, and I was like, I knew we were getting close on time. Like I know he wanted to get some other stuff in, so he goes, "Hey man, you want to do this?" I go, "I'm good, bro," and he goes, "Okay, cool, let's move on." And so I was like, yeah, I do this all. I don't need this, Tim. I got this. Like, this is not a drill that I need to work on a lot. Like, I do this all the time at my own, so I'm good.
Mhm.
So, but I did JJ's class, was the first class I ever took.
Oh, that's right.
And actually, I did JJ's class thinking I was just going to be a better coach. I didn't even think I needed that much work on my shooting. Not because I didn't think I needed to get better, but I was just like, well, I'm here just to learn how to coach better, right? I mean, that guy's got 20 plus years of experience. I believe he's got 20 years as a coach. So I'm just like, all right, cool. I'm going to go learn from this guy as a coach. I ended up coming out of there as a way better shooter. Just because I was catching things that he would say, or not even just so much that it was specific for me. It was just, I would see him talking to somebody else. I go, oh shit. Okay. Let me try to work on that little detail and add this little detail and that little detail. And it really makes a difference. If you keep an open mind, you go into those classes like that at a high level, you learn a lot of stuff.
Oh,
So,
100%.
I learned a lot in Tim's class, even though I disagree with a lot of the things that he did, or I shouldn't say disagree, but I didn't like the things that he was doing for me personally. Like I worked on a grip thing that he taught in the first day for, I don't know, the entire first day, and I hated it, but I did it the entire day. The entire day. I did it the entire day. And my hands were destroyed because I was dicking around with the wrong grip, right? And my hands weren't like toughened up in those areas. And at the end of the day, I was like, all right, cool. Then we ran the stage. I ran it with my grip and it was better. I was like, all right, cool. I'm good. At least I gave it a try. And that's all you ask for as a coach. You know, just give me an honest shot and then tell me what you like. It's not, I don't care if you do it my way, just try my way and see what you think.
Right. And it always sucks is, you're always going to have those people in class as well. This is not what XYZ coach says. And it's like, why the fuck did you pay me then? Like,
yeah, unfortunately, I have had, well, I guess I'm fortunate since I've done a lot of classes, but I've been, unfortunately, I've had two students that I've had to kind of yell at because of that. Like, just, it's like, I don't mind if you don't do what I ask, just don't argue. Like there should be no argument. Like you shouldn't be telling me that this doesn't work or that doesn't work. You haven't tried it. Right. Like, and again, it's like, there was some stuff that Tim said that I don't like, that I personally don't do, but I watched his students crush it with what he said. And I'm like, it works. That's all that matters, is that the person that he's teaching or that is there is getting something out of it. Right. It doesn't matter that I don't use it. It matters that somebody else gets it. And that's what I always say. Your students will tell you if you're a good coach.
100%.
So I've had people that are not GMs that are like, oh man, they talk shit about people that aren't GMs that are coaches. I'm like, look, as long as their students are getting something for their money, it's all that matters. As long as they're learning from it. That might not be what you need, but as long as they're learning, it doesn't bother me to have somebody else have a different opinion in the coaching world. I think that's how we grow as a sport in general, or as a profession, is to have different perspectives, different ways to do it. There's a lot of ways to get this game done, so and become a better shooter.
Oh, absolutely.
But all right, so Buckeye Blast, bro, I got to get into this one because a little bit of spice at Buckeye Blast, but we'll get into that towards the end of the conversation with Buckeye Blast. But
fine with me.
So we shot together. We got to shoot staff day, and there was a couple things that you brought up at the end of staff day, like privately. You sent me a message about how to kind of mentally focus for staff day. So I definitely want to talk about that a little bit, but let's talk about the match first. So that was the first time that we have ever shot together, and the first time I've ever seen you in person shoot. And dude, I was very impressed with your hustle.
Well, thank you.
Very impressed with your hustle. So one of the things that's important to me isn't so much that you can shoot or not, right? Because that's what I'm for. I'm there to teach you how to shoot better. But when I watched your effort, I was like, yeah, I can coach this guy. It's pretty easy to coach somebody who thinks like I do, or has the effort level and just wants to be faster, right? And puts the effort in. Because at the end of the day, like some of the things that I'm learning the most in my classes is that it's not really about gun speed. Like obviously that matters at some level. But when you're you're B class now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get to that master, grandmaster level, that's when the gun matters. Like but at that point you should know how to shoot, right? Like you're not working on fundamentals as much. I mean, you always work on fundamentals, but it's not as important as it was, because you already have those kind of locked in. But one of the things I see the most is guys just cannot push that go button. And where they're pushing the go button when you have a conversation is always with the gun. I'm like, no. That's not where you go faster in this sport. You go faster with your transitions, your movement, your exits, your entries, putting your gun up sooner, shooting sooner. So basically has nothing to do with the gun. So when you when you start watching people shoot, it's like, you got to move the gun, right? Not the bullets, not the slide, but you got to move the gun. You got to get the gun off the target. You got to stop taking 3 sight pictures. You got to stop staring at the target for so long before you pull the trigger. And that's like one of the biggest things that I notice when people shoot. So watching you shoot, that was something that you really worked on a lot. And I mean, at that point, were you signed up in the insider circle at the time? I think you were there for like 2 weeks. It was like right before you went to that match, if I remember correctly.
No. So I signed up for the insider circle after Buckeye.
Oh, after Buckeye.
So after we met. And
I got you.
I knew
So
it was already
I laid down a good impression, I guess, I hope.
Well, I knew it was already going to be worth it, but I was just like, I'm going to wait so I can actually have some. I didn't have any real matches under my belt for the year yet, really. So I
Right.
was like, okay, I'll wait. I'll get some video and then throw it
Right.
up.
Yeah. So we shot, how many stages we shoot per day? Was it 7?
6. So well, yeah. So 6 per day plus chrono. So, but we reshot one. So
That's the one we're going to get into later.
yeah. So I mean, really, yeah, I was like 7 a day.
So that's the match where Nationals is going to be, or the range that Nationals is going to be at. It's called Cardinal. And I was a little concerned when we got there because, or when I saw originally where they were going to do this match, because they don't have 3 berms on all the base. They have one berm in the back and then 2 side walls, which are made out of wood that have dirt in between them. Right. So yes, it's safe. You could shoot the side wall if you had to, but it's going to destroy the wall. So they don't really do that. So it was nice to see that Dan and Corey, Dan Click, and what's Corey's last name?
Cats.
So Corey was on that. Corey and Dan were running the match, and they basically built bullet traps. So how you would work it is they were able to give you side shots on targets, and they would just put a bullet trap behind it. And it actually worked out really well. It reminded me of a lot of videos I see of indoor matches in Europe. And actually, even some of their outdoor matches have those because they have the side walls as well with concrete and so on and so forth. But so that made me really excited to actually see that match wasn't going to be just one berm for a national championship. That I was kind of like, this is going to suck. Because I came from a club that only had one berm, and it limits what you can do for your stages in many ways, unless you have some very creative match directors or stage designers.
Yeah. And that gets boring just shooting down. Like only being able to shoot down to the back berm is so boring. It's like I mean,
Well,
it's
you end
great
up
for
with a
lateral
lot of
movement.
yeah. Well,
But
that's the thing. You end up with a lot of lateral stages where you're just left to right or right to left, no forward, no backwards. You're very much so stuck with just straight run down the line, left to right kind of thing. And you end up with a shit ton of ports and stages, like a lot of ports.
yep.
So it's like, oh my God, this is the match of ports. And I've seen those before at other places that actually have 3 berms. So when you just put a bunch of ports up, it just sucks because it's just like, all right, cool, I'm going to run here and stop, run here and stop, run here and stop. You don't really have a lot of free flowing stages where you can, come up with different plans.
And you can't blend anything. It's just like
Yeah.
it doesn't help.
Yeah. I mean, there are some stages that have ports. Like you guys had a couple stages that had some ports at Area 5 that were pretty good. That flowed pretty well. It was just you were going into that port. Like you were not skipping anything in any of those stages for sure. If you had a corner, you worked it. You guys made people go to those corners. So but the Buckeye Blast, we shot 6 or 7 stages per day. And the day I walked stages, it was 40 something degrees. I had
Florida
a beanie
man.
on. Yeah, it was freaking. Well, I like cold weather. If you didn't notice, I didn't wrap up in a jacket any other day, but that day, and it was also raining and had a ridiculous amount of wind. I'm like, okay, well, this is ridiculous. This sucks. It's gonna be freezing out here. So the next day was absolutely gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous. I couldn't believe. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, it was shorts and t-shirt weather almost. Had a little bit of a breeze still, but sunny, nice out, no rain. It's a beautiful, beautiful rain or beautiful weather for the match. So I ended up shooting on staff day because I had a class in Illinois that I had to get to. So I was lucky enough, Dan and those guys let me shoot on staff day. So I could shoot the match and kind of see what it was all about. And I got to say thank you to all you guys that worked the match, because even though I didn't accept it, you guys definitely offered me a staff reset match. So I was laughing because you guys all walked up and you were like, hey, they already had a meeting about you. And I was like, oh God, they had a meeting about me. And I was not expecting what I got out of that meeting, but they were like, you're a paid shooter. You're not, you don't have to reset. I said, you think that there's no way in hell that I'm going to sit here and watch all you guys pace while my ass sits back here on this bench. There's no way. So I ended up just pacing the whole time. I was like, but thank you. I was like, I really appreciate that you guys are offering me the opportunity to be a regular paid shooter here and have staff reset. So what did you think of staff reset? Was that the first time you ever did it?
Yeah. So that was the first time I've ever experienced it. Well, that's not true. I should say if you are staff, every match is staff reset. But no, I thought the match, other than when it rained early Sunday morning, staff reset is fine. With I only had with myself, there was only 4 individuals on my bay, so we had a system down. But as soon as it rained and the bags were on, it slowed down a little bit.
Everything. Yeah.
But then after that squad, I told my other staff, I'm like, we had a couple ideas of how to make it better. So I was like, we're doing it because I know the next squad's not going to be as kind or courteous to us. Because the first
Yeah.
squad of the day, they pulled their bag, like they'd run out there and pull the bag so we could score and paste.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I knew the next squad was not going to be so friendly because
Right.
nothing against this squad. I knew a couple of people on this first squad, but they're a bunch of nobodies. They're just normal people. They just want to shoot, and they're like, cool,
Yeah.
we'll pull these bags for you. But
Yeah.
the next squad was not that way. So I was
Right.
like, we figured a way to slit the bags in the back. So you kind of like peeled it back,
Right.
which Dan and Corey were smart. They used the nice, thick
Yes. Yeah. The
Uline
4 mil
bags.
bags. Yeah.
So, and those were a little difficult just because they're so tight on sticks.
Yes.
So with the slit, we flipped them around. You could pull them over, paste, and then lay them back flat. So we got
Yeah.
back to almost our normal reset speed, but we only had 2 squads in the rain, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But but I'm a young guy. I knew a lot of the older guys were like, this sucks. I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
But that also could have been related to putting a mix of elderly staff and young staff in the same squad and on the same bay
Right.
instead of having a bunch of old guys and then a bunch of middle-aged guys and a bunch of younger-ish guys on squads. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, in that scenario, staff is very important. Well, let me rephrase that. It always is important, but the organization of your staff is very important. You do not want to put people on stages that hate each other.
mhm.
You do not want to put people on stages that are all alpha males to the point where they want to argue how to run the stage. You have to have somebody's got to be in charge on a stage, and it needs to be just one person. You can't have, multiple chiefs. That makes it very difficult for anything to get done.
Oh,
Uh,
agreed.
it's just one of those things where it's like, all right, look, somebody's got to be in charge. This is the guy that's in charge. He's just the guy that needs more experience. We want to make him the CRO for experience. Da, da, da. So it's just like there's a lot of things that go into staff, unfortunately, that I don't think half the shooters in this sport have a clue that goes into staff, like what it takes to get a good staff and then get a good staff to work together, right? Because you can have a
Mhm.
great staff member and he can work with somebody else who just ruins the whole experience for the whole squad or staff, or that stage, whatever it is. But yeah, man, it's I was lucky enough that I didn't see any of that. I had an amazing squad of ROs.
Mhm.
I got to shoot with you, Walt, his wife. I met Jose, Josh. Oh man, I really like those guys. Like they
Mhm.
were all from the Midwest Shooting Center. They're all
Mhm.
in that squad, like in that shooting team area, and I really enjoyed our squad. I had a great time. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't know anybody. I only knew you, really. I knew Walt, actually. I shouldn't say I knew Walt and his wife, but I didn't really know anybody else on our squad. So I got to meet everybody and kind of like it was just a great time, man. I told all those guys afterwards, I was like, I had a lot of fun at this match. Like, even though I know it's staff and day 2 was really rough for me. I just didn't feel like I shot very well.
Mhm.
Um, but day 1, I shot really well. We had some issues on our first stage of
Yeah.
the match that kind of affected the next 2, but I was able to block it out. But I honestly, I felt like the match ran very smooth. We ended up shooting. What days did I shoot? Wednesday, I came in to walk stages. I shot Thursday and Friday.
Yep.
So Thursday, we shot at 1 in the afternoon, I
Mhm.
think is when we started. So that was why it wasn't freezing cold, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, because I was able to go in and we were able to allow the weather to kind of warm up a little bit. And I think that was kind of part of the plan to kind of
Mhm.
not have a 40-degree morning. So we started the day in the afternoon. The sun was out. It was beautiful. Everything was great. Then we came in the next day and the weather was beautiful. We didn't have any issues on Friday, even though we started a little bit earlier. I think we started at 8
Mhm.
because we finished the match at 12:30. I think it was right around, maybe it was earlier than that because I left and had to get on a plane flight at 5. So I just kind of hung out for a couple hours, just watching some friends shoot. And it was like just watching staff. reset, and I was like, yeah, these guys got it figured out. They're doing pretty good. It looks like they didn't have as many staff as I normally see at a staff reset. There was some bays where there was 3 guys instead of 4 or 5. But that's just kind of how it works when you're, especially on your first run. A lot of guys don't, a lot of ROs don't understand what staff reset is or how it works. So it just instantly seems like a lot of extra work. And it is a lot of work, but I think it's a little bit less work in some ways. There's some benefits and negativity to it, like negatives and positives, obviously.
Oh yeah.
The good thing about staff reset is you don't have a reshoot, right? If you run that stage correctly, okay, and everybody makes mistakes and everybody gets tired, and that's how it works. But one thing I've learned from staff reset is you want to designate one person for a section. Like, okay, you have these 3 targets, you have these 4 targets, whatever it is. Then you have another guy who kind of just goes and resets the swinger and the steel. And then you can rotate them so that the guy doesn't get burnt out on steel pickups. But you got to make sure that there's one person that's dedicated to a zone. And once you zone them out and put them in little zones, that zone is taken care of by that person. And you don't have to worry about whether it's done or not done. And then whoever's running the timer should be the last guy off the stage. And all he does is just kind of make sure everything's pasted, and let's rock and roll and go to the next guy and the next guy and the next person, the next person, next person. And it flows really, really well if you run it like that. It's the squads that I see that have like a lot of individual stuff. Like, all right, cool, I'm just going to walk over here this time and do this. And then next time I'll go over there. And it's like, that doesn't really work out too well.
No, not for staff. You definitely have to be coordinated in where you're going for staff reset. And the nice thing is you can split score. Like,
Yes.
and most of those stages were set up for split scoring, not
Yes.
intentionally, but it's like we're calling the score as soon as you're unloaded, and like we're not waiting for your ass to haul the mail back here. So you have
what stage did you score or work?
I worked on 10, so the one with the hands touching the little X.
Yeah. So what was that one touching the X? Now I'm trying to think where the hell that one was. What it was.
It was in the dirt berm bays. It was a 32 round field course. The best part to explain it was the stage with the 2 targets that were super close together that we eventually then split before the match and put the no shoot in it. Because I remember you were walking through with Janelle and Dr. Sam.
Oh yeah. I know.
You were like, that's a double target.
Right. So that's the one where they moved the X back. They moved it back, and it was in the middle, which would have made it a better stage that I talked about. Yes. Okay. Yeah, I remember that stage. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I was like, that's going to be a scoring. They'll be replacing that target every 10 shooters because the damn thing was basically touching your barrel when you came around the corner.
Oh, no, we did. Yeah. It was pretty much
that.
Depending on if the open guns were assholes. And they blew the perf apart. I'm like, guys.
Thanks a lot, dude. Yeah, you just have a plethora of extra targets there.
Yeah, which the quartermaster did really well about keeping us stocked on those. Like, I had a whole pack every half day. I got a whole new pack, and I'm like, but I don't need it.
Yeah, right. Well, listen, it's better to have it than not. I mean, think about being close on Pacers, and then you have a hold up on your stage because of something stupid like that. You're screwed. You know, like your time limit now is. So did they give you like a certain amount of time? Like say, hey, listen, this is what what we're looking for squads to get them. We want them in and out in 20 minutes, 30 minutes. What were you kind of set up for did you guys have a time matrix for them?
So the squad matrix was still a 45-minute buffer. It was 45 minutes scheduled. We were turning in 20 to 25 minutes.
Nice.
Depending on depending on make readies, and because we all pretty much hustled down, hustled back.
Right.
But if that stage wasn't maybe 15 yards from the beginning of the shooting area to the end of the shooting area either, though.
It wasn't that far. Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely was. It wasn't a bad stage to work. It wasn't like there was no steel, so it was all paper. So that definitely saved time.
Did you find any backups on that stage at all?
No.
So you didn't have any squads and that really kind of messed you up with well, that's the best part of not pasting is you don't have to worry about people not pasting. It's either you're not doing it as a staff or you are. So that was a big problem at Dragons Cup this year. It had nothing to do with this. I mean, there was some squads or some stage stuff that I think that they kind of made a little bit of mistake on because they put 2 giant 32 round stages on top of each other. One was you ran into a bus, and you know how that goes. There's no RO chasing you, right? Like you have to now walk out of the bus and then unload. So it takes a lot longer to unload, show clear, and all those things. And it's an uprange start. So you ran backwards the whole time. So that already means you can't score a single target until everybody's off the range.
Yep.
And then the stage before that was an unloaded start with a visual, and all your mags came on a table, and you ran 30 yards to the front of the bay. And if you ran out of bullets, you had to run all the way back to get some.
And that stage was like the big, like shooting area was like a big old 8, right?
Yes.
That was so huge.
Yeah, it was an awesome stage, dude. It was such a great stage, but it was just like, these two on top of each other. Anybody who has a long make ready, and listen, I saw some D-class make readies that were grandmaster, master make readies. I was like, Jesus, lady, like there's no way you need to take this long. And then the greatest part of it all was I watched this lady load her gun, run to the corner, and then pull a trigger on an empty gun. She never racked the round. I'm like, you took all that time to get ready, and you didn't even know what the hell you were doing. You know, it's like, oh my God. Like if I took that long, I'd have this shit memorized for a month. Like it was crazy. It was like, and these poor ROs, I mean, what do? You got to give them their time, you know? I mean, so it was frustrating. So, you know, it was kind of weird watching that. So that's why I was wondering if you guys had any backups, because we had some major backups at that match. That was one of the worst for sure when it came to squads not resetting, not doing their jobs, and then add that little area there with those two stages. So because a lot of people said something about the weather, and I was like, the weather really didn't affect, in my opinion, didn't affect the match, because they stopped the match when the storm came in. Right. It wasn't like people were shooting through the storm and some people were, some people weren't. They told them, get out of here. Like, get in your cars, be safe. Don't take a chance. Nobody wants to get hurt. And then once it went away, they kind of pushed through. But it was like, man, that was just certain squads, man, they just didn't have any push in them, you know, and nobody pushed them.
Right. And the only stage I remember having a backup, I'll call it a backup, was stage 12, the 2-string strong hand weak hand
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah.
But it was only taking 45 minutes when every other stage ahead of them was 20, 25. Like, so we're just racking them in there. So
did they give those guys a golf cart to score those back targets, by the way?
They did, but honestly, it took longer because you had to drive down with the golf cart, get out of the golf cart, pace the targets, and then drive back. The fucked up part was I heard they'd score down there and then they'd forget to pace them. Yeah. Like, why?
Well, they're not used to pasting. That's why they're used to having somebody else pace it. They're just used to scoring it and then walking back up and then going, all right, come on. You know what I mean? Like, but again, I think that's why it's so important to understand that leadership on those stages is everything, because the guy who has the timer should be the last one off that stage. Mm-hmm. He should be walking every single target and knowing exactly that every single thing is pasted every single time. The problem is when you get tired, man, it's easy to forget to do that. It is so easy to just go, yeah, they got it. You know, we've been doing this 100 times. There's no way that somebody would mess that up. And it's easy. And in that stage, if you forgot to score, you could give somebody major penalties there.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
major
absolutely.
Penalties. Oh, that one extra shot on a target would give you a negative 10 points, and he didn't even shoot the bullet, right? Because I mean, maybe the people were counting, but what if they don't one time? Then all of a sudden there's 6, 7 hits on something when it's supposed to only be 6, and you're like, oh, extra hit, gotcha. I was like, well, I didn't even pull the trigger extra.
Yeah.
So it's just that's where the scoring integrity kind of comes in sometimes, where it gets you.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And just think about it. Everyone's going to do a 4-minute make ready between strings.
Well, in that stage, you especially had to, because you had to make sure you had your bullets in the right spot, because there was a mandatory reload in there. So it was like, man, if you don't move your mags, then you're having issues. So that anytime you put 2 strings, it's already a long stage. But when you put 2 strings and it's one-handed with 25-yard Virginia count with lots of effing hard cover, yeah, you're definitely gonna have some long shooting there. So that was great that they made the time, though. They obviously nailed it. You know, I mean, they obviously were able to hold it up. So, I mean, I heard a lot of great things about the match. I had a great experience at the match. I only really have, I would say there's really only one negative thing that happened at the match for me. And it really didn't have to do with the match. It kind of had to do with how I was treated and how some other shooters were treated on a stage. So I'll kind of get into that story and then we'll move on to Area 5. So this stage that we shot had two very large poppers on it, and they were 30 yards easy. They were far, but they were big poppers. So it was like, all right, cool. They were pretty easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a guy in our squad that shot them and hit them just to the left of center. And I kind of talked about this a little bit in another video that I did for Instagram Live. And he hit him, and he was just, I guess he was closer to the edge of them, but it was a solid hit. Like the whole bullet hit it, and they didn't fall over. So then he shot the stage, and he obviously thought he hit him because you could hear it. It was a solid punch. So we call range master over. That the range master can stand there for 45 minutes and look at it, line the sights up, and bam, dead center knocks him over. But took a good, I don't know, I would say a good 3 seconds for them to even budge to start to fall. I didn't even think they were going to fall over because they didn't move very fast. Yeah. So they fall over. And the first thing I did is go, man, that sucks. All right, I'm going to go down there and make sure this doesn't happen to anybody else. And me and myself and Walt go and look at these poppers, and you could breathe on them and they would fall over if you hit them from the back. Mm-hmm. Like, so right away you knew, like, okay, cool. Like, you can't calibrate these anymore, because as soon as you adjusted anything, it fell over. So I was like, all right, we can't touch these, Walt. These are what he's like, yeah, this is it. And then we kind of inspected it, and we both were like, man, these bolts on the back are stiff as could be. They're not moving at all. So it was almost like it was a welded bolt is what it felt like, right? Like, so what happens when you shoot the steel on a forward falling, it has to rock back to gain momentum to fall forward. If a popper doesn't rock back, it's not going to fall forward, right? Because it doesn't have momentum from the bullet, from the hitting of the bullet. It doesn't have the momentum for like a rear falling steel does. Mm-hmm. So he didn't get the reshoot. Well, the next three shooters that come up all hit the steel and it didn't fall over, but they didn't leave the steel. They stayed back and shot it and made sure that it fell over. And again, same thing, hit it on the left or the right of the steel, but in the steel with a full bullet. Mm-hmm. So of course I come up and I'm thinking, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to hit this thing. Like, there's no way it's not going to fall over because I'm going to hit it. Right. So I shoot it and I hit both of them. And now I hit 2 inches to the left on one of them and dead center in the other one. And the one falls over, but the other one doesn't, even though I hit it 2 inches to the left of center. So of course I had to come back because I already knew how that one was going to go. I was going to lose calibration. Yeah. So now I'm pissed because I was crushing the beginning of that stage and I already know what's going to happen. It's not going to go down. I have to make the shot up, and I've already lost I think I lost almost 3 seconds on that coming back to that steel.
At least, yeah.
Yes. So I shoot the stage and I finish, and of course I'm pissed. I'm mad about it. And I'm not mad. I'm mad because the range masters were standing there watching all these shooters have problems before me, right? So instead of fixing it or saying, hey, listen, we've got a problem here, we've got to do something about it, they just let it keep happening. And that was kind of shitty, like, in my opinion. Not only was it shitty to do to a shooter, but you're also doing it to your staff, right? Like, you're allowing that to happen to staff as a range master, and you see this. You should do something, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm just saying you should be definitely like, hey, listen, wait, we got to look at this. This has now happened to 3 people. Let's figure this out. So I said to them afterwards, I was calm. I wasn't that upset with anybody. I just said, listen, just so you know, if this happens at the match, you might as well just park your car here or cart, because this is going to be a calibration for every single shooter, for every single person in this match, because if you don't hit it dead center, it's not falling over. And they're like, yeah, we'll fix it after you guys are done. And I was like, that's kind of shitty. Like, right there, that attitude in itself is what kind of made me bring up the live video, is that the competitive equity is shit, right? Like, if that's the mindset of the people that are in charge, mm-hmm. There's no competitive equity at this point in our sport, if that's the way it's going to be. So luckily, we had a conversation about 2 stages after, because I wanted to calm down and kind of not focus on it. And I said, look, do you think it's fair that this stage is, that you can stand there for all this time and shoot this thing and knock it over? And that, when we're shooting it, we're all in a rush. So we're not guaranteed a perfect dead center hit, but I hit it in the scoring zone. So what do you think should be done? I'm not going to really give the response because it's probably not something that I'll be nice about, but it was a really shitty response. It was a very negative basically I should have shot a different division with a hotter ammo is what my answer was.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to quote exactly how it goes. And I was not happy about that answer. I thought that was a really shitty answer. It wasn't just the answer. It was the nonchalant, like, oh, effing well, it didn't happen to me. It happened to you, kind of thing. So push comes to shove. The day after, the next day, I was going to kind of talk to the range master and kind of like, hey, or the match directors and kind of be like, hey man, listen, just kind of want to let you know, this is kind of shitty to do to your competitor or to your staff, not me. Cause at that point I was like, whatever, but just to your staff. Like I'm thinking about everybody else, not my score. And it worked out to where they went and changed the steel and flipped it to where now it was rear falling. And originally they weren't going to give us a reshoot, even though they flipped it around. And I was like, what? Like, it's a completely different scenario if you shoot it and it's going backwards. Because if I know it's a troublesome swinger or popper, I can just drive it down with 2 bullets and guarantee it's going to fall. So luckily, everybody came to their senses and we got a reshoot as a stage, as a squad. And I went from 20 seconds to 16 seconds. And I was like,
15 seconds, sir.
15. Oh, okay. So I would say that was quite a difference. I actually shot that stage really well, even though I was done. Like I was exhausted by that point. I didn't sleep well the night before because I found out at dinner the night before that they changed the poppers and didn't give us a reshoot. So my brain was just like, all right, how am I going to politely bring this up and not get kicked out of this match for being, just ridiculous. I was so upset that that they changed the stage and they were just going to be like, oh, whatever, and it was only our squad that was going to have it. Not everybody, but our squad was the ones that was going to be affected. I'm like, that's really shitty to do to your staff. I'm not even thinking about myself at this point, because at this point I'm thinking, well, that probably cost me the match. If that stage stands, it's going to cost me the match, right? Because I'm shooting against Vlager, Jay. What the hell's Jay's last name? Yes. So I'm getting ready to shoot against 2 of the best shooters, guys that are on Super Squad, and I'm like, oh, awesome. Like, yeah, no problem. Let me just take that one. But it got worked out. I ended up reshooting it, and it ended up working out really good, and I won that match. So it was a really, really good match. I enjoyed that match. I like the style of the stages that they came up with. I could do without that Virginia count one-handed bullshit though. Like it's old. Like we got more of it at nationals coming up. So I don't, that's a really big thing up there in Michigan and Ohio area for sure.
Well, and like we talked at the match, one stage would have been fine.
Mm-hmm.
If you just did one stage, it would have been okay. But,
right.
And I would have loved, I think I told Dan and Corey but the visual start should have been on a field course.
Right.
Make it a little bit more interesting than I'm going to run to a box and then I'm going to run to this other box.
Right. Listen, again, and a lot of people will hear this. I don't want to say a lot because there's only a few haters out there that I deal with, but this is never complaints. Like I want people to understand, like I really enjoyed the match. I enjoy the challenge of everything. Speaking of the visual start.
Oh God.
Oh my God. I don't know what the hell was going on. I think it was just because I was thinking about everything else before I started the day, like just thinking about that reshoot, all this stuff. Dude, we had a conversation about visual start. So I've walked the stage, I don't know, 100 times, and I know, look at the visual start. But the last 3 walkthroughs, I never looked at the visual start. I just had my hands down at my sides and I looked where I was running. And then I was like, all right, cool, I'm ready. So then it's my turn. And the guy goes, are you ready? Stand by. And I'm just standing there because I'm not looking at the light. And then I go, oh, I guess he hit it. And I ran. And I think I said it out loud, like, oh, I guess he hit it. And I ran and I shot the stage. And afterwards, I wish you wouldn't have said this to me because I was like, dude, just let me like just suck. You know, it's on me. It's not his fault. And he goes, I almost stopped you. I was like, dude, don't say that. Like, I wish you would just not said that. But I lost 2 seconds on that stage on that start. And I walk away from that stage and I go, what the hell am I doing? Like, where's my brain today? It was interesting. It was an interesting, that was an interesting, and I ended up having a mic on that stage because I pulled it. But I called it. Like, that's one of the things that I really bothers me about Virginia Count is that a skill set that you create or get as a grandmaster or as a better shooter is shot calling, right? You become really good at shot calling. So now you've taken one of my skills away from me because of a Virginia Count stage. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like, what is the skill of counting? Like, I mean, I can count 8 rounds and just, I have to accept whatever those hits are because I'm supposed to do my job anyway. But one of my skills as a grandmaster or at somebody at my level is that I can call my shots when they're good or bad. So it sucks when someone tells you, oh, well, we just took that skill away from you. Now you have the same skill as someone lesser than you that just shoots to shoot, right? And they're just shooting the same 8 rounds that you're shooting. So that's probably why I have a negative taste in my mouth about Virginia Count. Cause I'm like, dude, I work really hard on learning how to shot call. And then you take that away from me and don't let me make up shots. I mean, I guess you allow me to make up shots. It's just going to cost me tremendously to do that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's just one of those things. So, but yeah, I mean, other than that, man, I thought that match was really good. And even the one-handed stages, even though I was frustrated with some of the stuff that Virginia Count just gets under my skin a little bit. I like them. You know, I just shoot what they give me. And it's definitely a challenge. You know, it's just part of the game. And then it's funny because all the guys at my level, John and Jay, they were all like, yeah, these Virginia Count stages are bullshit. And I was laughing because I'm like, I'm not the only one who hates them.
Yeah.
I think they're just ways to rack up penalties at some point. You know what I mean? It's just, you're kind of giving the shooters you're guaranteeing mics for shooters, right? Even the best ones. I mean, look at Max Michel last year at Area 5. He fucking zeroed the stage. How many times you ever seen Max Michel zero stage?
Happens in every nationals too, right?
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Like, that's what I mean. I don't see that guy zero in stages. So it's just one of those things where it's like, goodness. But yeah. I don't know. It is what it is with those. But yeah, man, it was a good time. And then I left there and I ended up leaving that match. And then you guys got to stay and work. So it worked out pretty good, obviously.
Well, yeah, you got to go hang out with the gunslingers, the Chicago gunslingers, like Uncle Joe Sanchez, George DeSico.
Yeah. I only saw Joe for like, I don't know. I think we went out to eat. That was it. He was busy with work, or I think he went to like some local matches or running. I think he had his local match that he runs. So I didn't get to see him very much, but he came by on day 1 and George had his son's graduation and he rolls in on Saturday night, literally Saturday night. I think it was like 7:00 at night. And he's like, you guys are still here? We were still training. And I started at 8 and I'm like, yep, still here. We had to get some stuff finished. So, I mean, listen, I tell all my students, I don't quit. So if you run the class, my students run my class. And what I mean by that is when they come to a class, if they want to work on drills a little bit more, as long as it doesn't keep me from getting to another drill, I let them rock and roll. You know, if somebody drops off, somebody else get back in here. Like somebody has to go get ammo, whatever, come back in. You know, that's kind of just how I do my class. I'm a big proponent of, if you're coming to a class where you're supposed to be shooting, you should be shooting. Right. I mean, I could talk all day long, but it's just better if when we're on the range, I've got you pulling the trigger. Right. There's plenty of time that I talk, right, when we're shooting or not shooting, but I want you be able to shoot rounds so that I can fix you when you're in the class. It's very difficult to fix things when I'm not in front of you if you don't know what you're messing up. So I make that a big part of my class. It's very important to me to give them the opportunity to kind of, like, I tell them, if you want to take a break, go sit down. I'm not offended. You need to make a phone call. I'm not offended. It's your class, right? I've had lots of students have to take phone calls for work, and that's how they were able to come to the class, because they were still at work technically.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, I got to take this call. I'm like, yeah, no problem. I can't imagine having that phone call with all the pew pews going on behind them, but they seem to manage it. So obviously they have some freedom in their work. But yeah, so I went to his class and then did that class, and then from there, Area 6, and then came from Area 6 to Area 5. So that's let's get into Area 5 a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot easier this year, but not easy.
Yeah, it was deceptively easier, but not. Yeah, it still let you hang yourself out to dry. I feel.
I agree. Last year, you walked up and you just said, "Oh shit, this is going to be hard."
Mm-hmm.
This year, you were like, "Yeah, this is way easier." No, it wasn't. You could really get screwed up in this match. Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about Brooklyn. So that gun club in itself does not own a big popper. So if you think you are going to, actually, I did see one big popper, by the way.
Yep. Well,
So-
yeah, it's, I think we own, I want to say on the whole property, there's 4, but they're
I
heavy
did see-
SOBs. They're like,
Yeah. So
they're
can we
like,
talk about that one big popper? I had a makeup shot on that big ass popper.
don't feel bad. Me too.
I was like, so he finally, you know what it was? I treated it like it was a big popper. I was like, oh, cool, big. And I just slung around at it. I didn't slow the gun down. I didn't aim at it. Actually, hold on. I'll tell you this story about that stage real quick, because I didn't know if I was ever going to talk about it. Because I just don't like saying some of this stuff, because people always think everything you say, there's just a lot of dicks in this sport that think if you say something, it's an excuse. So
Right.
I'm running down that stage, and this stage had kind of a long hallway. And as you ran down, you had to get to the right as you got to the end to shoot an activator, a small mini popper, and then it activated a drop turn, not a drop turner, but a max trap, and then a big popper and some paper to the left. So I come running in, and as I get ready to shoot the small mini popper, the second one, I freaking hit the wall with my holster, and it grabs my holster, like grabs me, like, and stops me. My whole left leg lifted in the air is how fast it stopped me and braked me. So as I shoot the big popper, that's when I got hooked. And I went wham, and the gun went way left. And I was like, oh shit, that's a miss. So I made it up, and I stood there with the gun holster in the wall for like the most of the back of that stage. And I'm trying to transition, and I can't turn my hip. So I'm getting on the paper, and I'm shooting Alpha Charlies, or 2 like almost Deltas. And then I get to the last 2 pieces of steel to the left, and I just yank my hip out of the wall so I could shoot the last piece of steel, because I couldn't see it. It was behind the wall still. I was stuck. And so for whatever reason, that wall, out of all the walls that I shot this entire match, had like a big bubble in it, a buckle, like it was loose. So I think someone else ran into it before me and ripped it loose. And I went up to the range master afterwards, and I was like, look, I don't want to reshoot. I just have a really serious question here. What is the rule for that? Like, I'm really interested. Is that would that be a range malfunction? Is it just like, what is that rule? So I'm really interested if somebody, when they hear this, if they can, because I'm not a rule guy when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I'm really interested to see if that would have been a range malfunction. I didn't even want to reshoot. I shot the stage pretty well, even with that, but I was just like, holy shit, man. Like, I don't think I've ever had something grab me like that while I'm trying to shoot the stage, but I couldn't get my hip out of it. And, so all that, I think that miss ended up, I'll just blame it on the wall. I won't blame it on myself at all. So there's my excuse. So if you guys want to start hating on me for being an excuse maker, you got your opportunity.
Yeah. It's surprising on that stage. I cleared the back portion. I took all 5 minis from the start.
Did you? Okay.
And then I was paper, big popper miss. Didn't activate the clamshell yet. And then I just finished with then I activated it on the last shot.
Right.
I wasn't afraid of that no shoot.
No, I took it when it was still closed, even though I shot the activator. So I shot the activator steel, and I shot it before it even opened. So I transitioned through that stuff really. I actually had a really good time on that, but John beat me because of that little mistake. He crushed that stage. I think he shot it just under 12. I was just over 12. So I really wanted that stage win too, because I shot pretty well there on that section of the stage of the match. I finally woke up and kind of started shooting well. And at that point, Nils took his foot off the gas, so it made me feel like I was shooting better than I probably was.
Oh wait, so he let up off your necks?
Oh, dude, he was winning by 100 points. Dude, he still won by 100 points. He walked off that specific stage and turned around and looked at me because he didn't shoot it. Like he missed a lot of steel. He just was going for it, right? He was just going to go rip it. And he turns around and looks at me and he goes, "Trash, Tom." And I go, "Dude, don't be talking like me." I can't tell you how many times I walked off a stage at that match and I go, "Trash." Like I am trash. Like that's terrible. I walked off one stage and I go, "I suck." Like I'm sucking right now. And he just started laughing because I'm not a negative person, but like I just say stuff, right? Like so many people, like I posted a video the other day. I like kind of dumped out my feelings about the match. And I appreciate everyone that has sent me a self-help book or a mental management book or anything that they've sent me to make me better or make me feel better about my suckiness. But I'm not upset with myself about it like that. I don't look at it as in like, oh man, I'm terrible. I'm a terrible shooter. I'm the worst shooter ever. That's not how I think. I never will, because that's probably why I would never get where I'm at if I thought like that. But I do appreciate all of you. But the reason I post some of the things I post is because I didn't have the self-help guy. I didn't have a Tom Castro and I still don't see guys coming out about how they feel after matches, right? Like, I just feel like that's kind of one of the things that I always missed was like, how am I supposed to feel after this? Because I feel pretty shitty. Like, I feel like I don't want to go shoot again. I feel like I put all this time and effort into these two, like Area 6 and Area 5, and I blew both of them. Right. I mean, Area 5, I started off losing the match on the first stage. So, and I just kind of carried that throughout the first day. So it's like, I want people to understand like what I'm going through as in how I feel. It's not so much that I need like a pep talk I mean, it's awesome. I appreciate you guys, but it's not one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I'm quitting. Fuck this sport. You know, it's not how I feel. It's just actually, I went out today and practiced and I felt so good that I went out and practiced because I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's get back to work. I don't look at it as a negative. I'm like, all right, I get to learn something new. And I spent the entire day, the entire time I was on the range today, working on vision. That's all I worked on was vision, speed, steel, tuxedos, slashers, you name it. I worked on vision, just making sure that I'm getting back to seeing the target before I pull the trigger. And it really worked well. I just need to hold on to it at the match. It's like, I got to be there for that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
that's been the hardest part. So, I mean, I'm having great practices. I don't feel like my shooting's the issue. I feel like I guess it is my issue because the vision is part of shooting, right? I don't even want to say vision is mental because it's really not. It's just understanding the timing of your eyes versus the gun. And it's a fine line. It's a super fine line when you're going at super fast speed. It's very, very easy to go, it's fine. Just sling the gun over there. But if your eyes aren't there, it's the consistency that's the problem with not shooting with your vision. So have you had issues? You do a lot of dry fire. How much do you work on visual?
I want to say about 75% is usually visual. Sometimes it's just about raw speed, but it's real, wanting to see it's rule 1 and rule 2. Honestly, it's like without rule 1, it's going to be a bad day no matter what you're doing.
Right. I agree. Yeah. So I will tell you something that I've been suffering at a little bit. And I think the problem is that I'm going back and forth with rule 1 and 2. I really am. I'll have my sights, but then I'm not aggressive on the trigger. And then I get no sights and I can't stop pulling the trigger. It's like it's just kind of been one of those really weird, like, I know I'm on the line of where I need to be. It's just trying to keep that from falling off of, just happening at a match. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not having this shit happen at practice. I'm having it happening at the major matches. And that's the frustrating thing. I'm like, why aren't I having mess ups at practice? Like, I'm leaving practice a national champ every practice. I'm like, oh man, this feels great. I'm right where I need to be. I'm shooting 99% alphas at speed. And then I go to a match and I can't hold the damn gun on the target. It's like, I don't know. It's been very frustrating in so many ways because I'm like, I'm practicing, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I think I need to go back and start adding some dry fire to my practice more. Like, not practice, but I need to start getting the gun in my hand every day and start just locking that back in because I've been so busy, I haven't been doing it. And I'm not dry firing until the match, and I can't. It's just taking too much time. I'm having the gun out of my hands too long, right? I need to keep the gun in my hand more often.
Right.
So, and I don't think I lose my skill set. Obviously, I mean, I don't, because I still can shoot. It's just that I feel like those little, if I just make it more consistent, I think it'll be more consistent. I'll be able to just pick the gun up every time and be like, all right, cool. This feels just like yesterday and the day before and the day before and the day before. I'll have less bad days maybe.
Right.
So, I don't know, but anyway, so with Area 5, so how involved were you with Area 5?
Well, so we got done with we'll jump back. We did the Michigan section, we tore that down, and then we had a little bit of time between these matches, so but I didn't really get involved too much other than, looking at some stages until like Memorial Day weekend, where we had to go finish like the little nitpicky shit that has to get done on the range. The match director Ken and his dad put a lot of hours in between, like, even after between Buckeye and Area 5, so many hours. But I was involved with, some of the logistical stuff, making sure things were okay. But other than, the stats and stuff, I wasn't super involved. But, it's my home club, so I still partly
You're always
live.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told Ken, it's like, I feel bad, dude. It's like, I live pretty much an hour away from the club, and it's hard for me to go on a weekday to go over there
Right.
and go help out. Or he's like, well, I'm taking a half day. I don't have enough half days, bro.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, and I was and then I got there Thursday at 7 a.m. to finish so we could hang targets. And then we do the RM walkthrough at lunchtime. So that was pretty good, but.
Yeah. So I'm really interested we had a conversation about how I shoot staff day. And you asked me, like, look, man, I'm shooting some staff days. I just kind of want to have an idea of, like, what do you go through mentally? And I made a video about it. So it's one of the things that I love about this sport is there's always something to talk about. So I made a video a little bit about like how I focus on shooting staff day. And it's kind of how I focus on shooting a regular match. The only difference is you're shooting with staff, right? You're probably going to have some problems with not staff, but you're going to have definitely going to have some problems with stages. You're going to have poppers that might not be calibrated perfect. Targets might have to be moved before you shoot the stage. Hell, sometimes you have to reshoot a stage because things aren't working properly. Or there's going to be a major issue in the match overall, such as popper calibration, like we talked about, where it's not going to work. So you might as well just fix it now before it happens and just have everybody reshoot or whatever you have to do for it. And those are huge distractions, like giant distractions for you as a shooter when you're shooting staff. The easy answer, all right, the easy answer, and this is actually very easy to do, but you have to be very selfish. At some point, it's your turn. So that means if you have, let's just say you have 8 people and you're the guy with the timer, you cannot be the only one running the timer for everybody. You eventually have to give that timer up and hand it off to somebody if you're staff and you need to walk away 3 shooters before it's your turn. And there has to be zero excuse for you as a staff member that you do not do that. You cannot allow, like, oh, we don't have anybody else to run the timer. Well, then we need to fix something else. We need to figure out something about our squad. Somebody needs to learn how to run the timer. Somebody needs to learn how to run the score, whatever it is, because that's not fair to you as a staff member, because you're a competitor at the end of the day. So you have to get the same opportunity that the non-staff members get, or it's an illegitimate match, in my opinion. Right. It's illegitimate. Or illegitimate scores. How about that? Because now you're not getting the same and let's be honest, you really don't get the same opportunity when it comes to distractions versus the staff versus the regular paid shooter, but it can be better. It can be better. And I'll tell you, it's really easy to make it better. All you have to do as a match director is make sure that your staff, or let me rephrase that, you as a shooter have to take care of that. And that, like I said, you give that timer up. You do not run the pad 3 shooters before it's your turn. You should not be out there pasting 3 shooters before your turn. And if you have to, you've got to break away at least 1 or 2 shooters. If you can't get to that 3rd shooter because you don't have enough staff, it's got to be 1 shooter at least. You cannot go paced and then be the guy that's on the line. It's impossible because now you're not focused on what you're supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
So the easiest thing to do is just walk away from everybody. And you got to rewalk that stage a million times in your brain, like how you're going to shoot it, what you're going to do, every little detail over and over and over again. And if you don't have it before you walk up to that line, you didn't walk away early enough. You didn't focus enough when you're as a staff member, right? You have to treat it like you're going for a national championship, even though you're staff.
Mm-hmm.
But the hard part is, again, if you have a lot of issues, because I'll tell you, I was unfortunately ran in South Carolina. I ran the pre-match staff match, staff day, and that was a friggin' nightmare. Like every single thing that could go wrong went wrong. Like poppers were behind barrels, people were shooting through barrels, having shoot throughs, and all this stuff where it was like, we had a project on almost every stage. Now, we had a great staff, we had a great range master, so it worked out really nice for the regular staff.
Yeah.
Right. But I paid the price in my shooting because of it. And again, I did it on purpose because I was there to work. I didn't care so much that I did well. I always want to do well at the match, but I didn't care. Right. I was there for something completely different. I was there for the vendor area to do my thing and kind of make that better. But again, it's like, as a staff member, you have to walk away and not be staff while you're there. It's very difficult, but it can be easy if you as a shooter can break away mentally. So it looks like in the last two matches, you've done that. Buckeye Blast, you podiumed, and Area 5, you podiumed.
I did. And I was able to podium one higher. I still lost my B class title by less than 1%. And I was like, but it was to my buddy, so I told him he had to bring it. So because I shot a really good lights out match for me at Area 5. So
how many points was the 1%? How many points?
Let's see. 16 less than 15.9 points.
Okay, so where did you lose the match? It's never one thing, but I'm interested if there was one thing specific that kind of cost you in the match. Do you think of anything?
It probably was stage 12 on the 4 poppers clamshell on the 4 popper max traps. I had trigger freeze on the first max. I tried to go not necessarily hero 0. I tried to go activator popper and then go for the rightmost clamshell. But I had trigger freeze, so then I was shooting the head of it, and I mic'd it. I was like, I mic'd it. And so, of course, it was like, son of a bit. And I'm like, God damn it. And then I shot the other popper so I went for the riskier plan.
Right.
And the risk wasn't worth the squeeze on this one.
So let me ask you a question. Why did you think that shooting the 3 poppers was going to be better than just shooting the activator, non-activator, then the max trap, activator, non-activator, max trap? Because what did you get out of that third steel? No matter what, you're still waiting for the drop turn, the forward falling steel to activate that max trap.
Mm-hmm. I guess my thought was that it would eliminate, some time there, so that, I was already doing something else. I was able to take care of something else in the meantime of all these poppers are falling down, because I had decent track record with shooting. I have for the most part, shooting very good close track records on mini poppers at relatively not so far distances.
Right.
Because that's all we shoot at our club is mini poppers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I have so mini poppers don't scare me. When everyone's like, oh, that thing's scary, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's gotta be maybe I'm like, that's 15 yards, right? They're like, no, it's 25. I'm like, oh, I don't give a shit then. I guess I'm gonna still shoot it. So my confidence on steel and be able to, for at least those close steel shots, I was fairly confident with. So I was like, okay, I'll shoot it. And then it definitely was the riskier plan. My initial plan was to go for it, all 4, because the left max trap is so much slower than the right.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh, this is doable. But it didn't work out for me. I mean, I think I ended up, I had no shoots, no other procedurals, but just 6 mics for the whole match.
Yeah.
Which I went back to last year's match when I shot Carry Optics. I had maybe 20. No, it can't be 20 mics, but it was at least 13 mics.
So I'm not gonna lie, dude. I think open is definitely your game right now.
Oh, like, absolutely.
I'm watching you shoot, and I'm like, oh, he's shooting very good. Like I'm watching the gun, on a
Mhm.
couple of your videos. I'm like, yeah, he's really locked into that gun pretty well.
Yeah, the gun and I definitely communicate very well. We have a great relationship. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, when
It
you
just
know,
takes your money, bro. Let's be honest. It's just you keep feeding it money and it just keeps working. That's all that matters.
but at least my gun runs.
That's right. That's a very big point into open. That's definitely going to help you win some matches, right? That's
Right.
for
And
sure.
I had, I'm still getting used to 2011 trigger, so I do have a couple trigger freezes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I'm going to
like
tell you where trigger freeze comes from. And I know some people disagree, but in my opinion, whenever you have trigger freeze, it doesn't, it's because you're trying to do something faster than your brain will allow your finger to do it. In other words, like a good example is you're trying to shoot 3 pieces of steel and get to the max trap. You had the trigger freeze because you tried to move the gun. You're thinking move gun instead of pull trigger first and then move. That makes sense. Like, so what most people don't realize is, well, I guess if just thinking this out loud, this is the brain. It has to go all the way down your neck, all the way down your shoulder, all the way down your arm, and then get to that little fingertip at the end on pull, pull,
mhm,
pull. Right. So
right.
when you try to move the gun, guess what? It takes, guess where all your process goes to is the big movement. It never goes to the small micro movements. How many times have you ever had an issue reloading, pushing the button to get the gun out, but you got no problem grabbing the big mag in your pocket? It's easy, right?
Mhm,
Because that little button is a very fine movement, but you've already started moving your body or moving your gun. And that's very hard to do the little fine movements fast and consistent unless you think about those a little bit, right?
yeah.
So like same thing. You went 1, 2, shit, because you were already thinking 1, 2, go to the backstrap. And you kind of put that third steel in the back of your mind instead of at the forefront. Does that make sense?
Mhm,
So I will tell you that if I had a chance to do that again, especially in the place that I was at in this match, because of where I was placing, I probably would have went for all 4 and I should have went for it. But
mhm.
I shot it because I was like, all right, I just want to shoot this well. And I shot that stage very well. I think I had 1 Charlie. I shot all of the stuff in the front, reloaded going to the front, came around the right. I went steel, activator, non-activator, max trap. And then for some reason, I decided to shoot the non-activating steel, then the activator. And
Mm.
then when I realized what I did, I shot the activating steel 2 more times. And I drove it down, but I drove it forward, whatever you want to call it, because it
Yep.
was forward falling. But I'm like, you dumbass. But I stood there forever on the max trap, like forever. And it really cost me. I should have went all the way. I almost did. I really thought about it. But then I was like, you know what? I've been shooting pretty well that day. And I shot really bad in the morning. So the afternoon, I was like, I just want to shoot well. I'm pissed off already about the way I shot this whole match. So I just want to shoot a good stage,
Mhm.
which was good because then it took me into the one-handed shooting and I ended up winning that stage. So I was like, all right, good. I'm glad I tried to shoot at least somewhat like I felt good. Like I felt when I got to stage 11 all the way till the end, I felt like myself. I don't know where the hell I was for the rest of the match, but I at least showed up for a little while
Mhm.
and didn't look like a complete jackass on the against those guys.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, it was a really good match, dude. You guys did a good job. I'm always excited to come up there. I like that you guys have a good flavor of difficulty, and I just feel like we need more of that. Uh,
Mhm.
I kind of I'm tired of hearing all the people complain about how hard it is, and I'm like, what do you do this sport for? Like, if you do this sport because you want it to be fast and easy and up close, this is a wrong sport. Just go back to the public line, right? I mean,
Right.
that's you're in the wrong game. This sport's not supposed to be easier. Like, and I can tell a difference in the design of stages. It feels like we're kind of getting back to shooting again.
Mhm.
Like we're starting to get into the shooting challenges again, where like, oh man, you might actually have to hit a target at 25 yards. You might have to shoot a no shoot at 20 yards, 25 yards. And you guys had a very good blend of stages. Like there was a couple stages that you had some kind of close up stuff, but you always mixed in like that, the little bit farther stuff, some tuxedos here and there. It didn't feel like you were just putting shit up to be a dick, like a lot of people
Right.
do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Ken really tweaked himself. Him and Hod over these stages all winter it seemed like, because he had him ready by January, and he was looking at him. He changed some, he'd fix them. So he really put everyone's feedback into last year, but still making it a shooting match. I mean, we don't really know what a hoser is. I think honestly, the only hoser stage was 11. I'd call that a hoser.
Yeah, I guess so because everything was close, but everything had a freaking no shoot or a hard cover on it. There was no damn hose in those things.
Yeah,
You had to aim for all of that stuff or you could have gotten screwed.
yeah.
So 12 was the same way because you like all those targets that they put up there, you had lots of penalty opportunities. Like you had to, and if you're trying to shoot alphas, you really had to aim. Like, I mean, you could shoot it fast if you were good and you were willing to take a chance. But I noticed a lot of guys, there was a lot of Charlie neck hits on a lot of targets on that
hmm
stage. Like people were staying away from those A's, the no shoots from a mile away.
Yeah, those don't scare me. Those white targets, they don't scare
Yeah,
me.
I agree, man. I'm the same way, man. I shot everything really aggressive. And dude, I had one penalty and I had one mic on the whole match. The mic was a tuxedo that I knew I pulled it too. But I was on my way out the door. Like I shot, what was it? 7? It was 6, 7. I think it was stage 7, the one with the stomp pad
hmm
where you could start and step in, run to the right, or just step in, shoot, and then run to the right, and then you stomp on the stomp pad. And I shot the entire left side of that stage with the max trap, stomp pad, or excuse me, the max trap, the open target, tuxedo, and then that's the one where you had to go to the front right and like kneel down and shoot underneath. Bro, I shot that thing on the move the whole way. I never stopped shooting the whole way. And as I exited the tuxedo, I saw it just to the left of the line. And I was
hmm
like, I hit the damn, I definitely mic that. And I got up off the ground and I looked at Kobe and I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah. I'm like, I knew it. Like it's son of a bitch. But I ran it in 14 seconds. So I think I think the only other one shot it as fast as I did was Hetherington. But all the other guys shot it in like 16. I mean, dude, listen, I was like, look, I'm shooting like shit. Let's get it. Like, I got to go get this now. You know, I had no choice. It was our last stage of the day. I ended up second overall on that stage with a mic. So like, I try to tell people, man, listen, at my level, you can never shoot a penalty, right? You should never, ever, ever just be happy with a penalty. You never want a penalty. But if you don't go get it against these guys, you're never going to get it, right? Like
hmm
I'm watching Nils and John shoot, Jacob. These guys are going to get it no matter what, right? They're not taking risks, like ridiculous risks, but they're going to get it. Like if you slow down at all, they're going to beat your ass. Like that's just all there is to it. I slowed down on my second stage to kind of clean up some of my grip and that I was not doing well on my first stage, and they
hmm
beat me by 2 seconds. And I was like, what? I shot really good points. It didn't matter. They beat my ass by 2 seconds. Like I'm not 2 seconds faster or slower than them.
hmm
Right. So what did I shoot like? Not myself, obviously. So, I mean, it's like when I walked away from this match, I think I was 6 seconds slower. That's unacceptable to me.
hmm
Right. So like if I go, yeah, I'm looking. So yeah, no, just kidding. 8 seconds slower. That's ridiculous. I had one stage where I kind of had a standing reload it was on me. I pushed the button, but a half-ass pushed the button and then I turned the gun and it got me. Like then I stood there with the new magazine in the gun and I just looked at it, never pushed it, just staring at it. I go, I might want to push that in there and then get to shooting. I was like, where? I walked off that stage. I looked at Nils and John. I go, I'm not quite sure where I'm at, but I'm not here right now, I guess, because I'm not paying attention. Like I was just like, and they're just like, oh, John walks over and he's like, sorry, bro. And I'm like, yeah, me too. like, like I suck. But it's how it works, man. You got to learn from those mistakes and you just go get it.
Oh, absolutely.
But so what's your next plan, man? Where are you going next? What do you got
Uh,
going on?
I've got Kentucky. So by the time this airs, this will probably air, or at least depending on what part this is. I don't know how long we've gone, but I'll be at Kentucky next. So
Okay, cool.
I'm going to take a B class open title there.
Nice. Let's go.
Go for
Yeah,
another
dude, I'm
podium.
really happy with your progress right now. So like super happy with your progress. Like I'm watching you grow every time I watch you shoot. I'm like, all right, he's been paying attention to the videos.
Mm-hmm.
He's been watching the videos. So dude, I have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the Mindset Mondays? Do you like those? Have they helped?
I like to let people. I like to hear people talk out loud and
Yeah.
think. And usually that's what it is. Like Like, and I'll do that to myself, or I'll explain to somebody. Like, I've got a friend who's like, I'm just ready to quit shooting because I'm not having fun and I'm getting my ass kicked.
Right.
It's a little for him. It's a little bit of more of the I'm the local hot dog out of a random bunch of D class shooters,
Right.
and it's like I should be doing better this. I'm like, but you need to compare yourself to a national contender,
Right.
and then figure out your shit.
Right.
If you're not really where you're there, so I'll talk out loud to him and make him not. I don't beat him up, but I'll talk it out
Yeah.
loud to him, and he knows who he is. But
Yeah.
I like the mindset Mondays. I like the breakdown Fridays. So I think all the content's good, even though I give you $20 a month.
Yeah, I had a question about like just that, like I did a video just recently that I posted publicly about my area 5 and 6. I talked a little bit about earlier in the thing, but
Mhm.
it's just those are not easy, right? Like I'm dumping my soul out on a video. And I kind of open myself up to the haters a little bit, because like you can pick out anything you want out of a sentence and say that I'm being negative or that I'm complaining. Like, the other day, my buddy Brendan Conway posted a video of a stage in Area 6 that I talked about how when I hit the steel, it didn't fall over. And he goes, "Oh, it fell over just fine for me." Like, I'm friends with that guy. So I was like, I just suck. Like there's
Right.
no argument. I wasn't, my whole comment about the steel was never a bitch and complain anyway. It was just if you hit it in the scoring zone, it should be scored. Right. Period. If it's in the scoring zone and it doesn't fall over, I don't know. I just that kind of sucks about steel. And anybody who doesn't think that a national champion or a national shooter hasn't had that happen to JJ at Production Nationals, dead center punches a big giant popper and doesn't fall over and actually costs him a national championship, or possibly could have cost him a national championship, which he did take second that year.
Mhm.
Dude, you're crazy. Like there is an issue with that sometimes. So to say that we should just not fix anything because it worked for 5 out of the 6 guys, what about number 6?
Right.
It's just shitty to have that to happen to other people. So it just happens to be that I brought it up on a video, and it's just the way it works. But sometimes, man, you just don't know. Like I don't really care what people think about me in a lot of ways, but I always want my content to be productive, and be good.
Mhm.
So that's why I ask, because I don't always get to ask people that are in my insider circle. Like a lot of people don't comment, it's just kind of like
Yeah, which
thumbs
is
up, bro. It's
yeah.
cool. All right.
It's really bizarre that nobody. It's very odd that like there's not more interaction on the back end.
Right.
But it's a shame on them because they're not getting that extra value of having a
Right.
conversation with other members of yourself.
Right.
And
And
which
I
I think
love
is weird.
talking about shooting, dude. Like, it's like as soon as a comment is made, I instantly jump on it. I'm like, yeah, sweet. And then it's like, oh, cool. Thanks, man. Thanks. And I'm like, all right, you're welcome. Like,
Right.
it's so maybe I just answer them really well, I guess. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. It's weird.
Mhm.
It's kind of an odd thing because it's like, it's a forum for a reason, right? So it's open conversation. I don't have anybody blocked in there. Like I want the open conversation about the videos, but it's kind of weird. So I don't know. Maybe I should just start adding more comments. Maybe I'll just start commenting on my own videos. I'm like, hey guys, what do you think about this drill of the week or the month or whatever that I did,
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, man, it's fun. I really enjoy making the videos.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
it helps me a lot in some ways. Like this last one I just did, I was like, man, I feel so much better after I dumped that out on video. And then I had some comments on YouTube that were just like, one dude almost made me cry. I was like, man, this is awesome. Like he was like, I was just about to quit. Like I'm so frustrated with my shooting. And he's like, it's so good to hear that somebody at your level is going through the same thing. I said, and what I don't think people understand is the reason I feel the way I feel is because I've already gone through this multiple levels, right? Like
Mhm.
C class, B class, A class, master, grandmaster. I've gone through all the same feelings. It's just against different levels, right? Like I'm now at a level where perfection, it almost feels like you have to be perfect,
Mhm.
right? And a lot of people will never, ever feel what I feel. So I'm like, well, maybe they need to know what I feel like. Maybe they need to understand, like, this is how it works. Like you're going through the same thing I'm going through, Manny.
Mhm.
You're going to have the same issues I'm having right now. It's just you're at a different level. What you're right now, you're climbing up the ladder to go to an A, and right now you're going to run into a wall because that's just how it works. And then you're going to think, man, this is not going to get better. I feel like I suck. And then all of a sudden, it just clicks, and you're going to feel that breakthrough. You're going to feel the breakthrough. It's really weird. Like you're like, I feel like I'm doing pretty good. Like,
Yeah.
but man, I really suck at this or that, and then you just start working on those things, and it's like, bam, all of a sudden you click the switch, and then all of a sudden A is a joke. Like you get your classifier, you go up to a classifier and you just crush it. And you're like, I've been busting my ass for this for over a year, and I just stopped trying, and it just happened. And what the hell is that about?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just because you stopped trying, you
Right.
got the brain out of the way.
Well, and even like for myself, like I looked at these last two matches comparatively, I'm like, okay, so Buckeye, I was at 64.9% of the winner. This match, I was 72.7% of the winner. So I jumped a whole 8% difference, like I know you can't really compare match to match like
I
that.
think you can, though. These two
Mhm.
matches were very comparable.
Mhm.
I think these two matches were about the same amount of difficulty, bro. I'm telling you, I really do. I thought that the Buckeye Blast and the Area 5 match were very similar with the style of shooting that you had to have.
Mhm.
There's a lot of mix of flow there. Shoot something far, then close. Shoot something far, shoot something close. Shoot some no shoots, tuxedos. They had a good flow between both matches. I really liked them.
Yeah, and I agree. And so, and I see this climb. I'm like, all right, I shot a good match here. I shot a lights out match here. Kentucky, I'm gonna shoot even better. But I'm
Yeah.
okay. And here's what I feel is like, if I don't class, I'm fine with being B class for the rest of the season. I told Chris Gelnett today. It's like, dude, I feel like I'm ready to go to fucking nationals and go for the title at nationals. Is how good I feel right now. But I've
Yeah.
also come to the mentality of, I shoot my best when I just have fun today.
Yeah.
Like I'm not stressing about anything. I'm here to have fun, and I let my shooting do the damn talking because
Yeah.
that's what matters. I
Yeah.
don't need to talk all the shit on the internet or
Yeah.
on the stage anymore. I'm like, screw you
Yeah.
guys. You all can be bitching about how shitty you're shooting because
Right.
you're not prepared, you're not ready. I'm just gonna let my shooting talk for me.
Yeah.
It,
So I mean, you're on the money, dude. Like I try to, like, I had a guy that an SRO come up to me today from at the range I was at. Fishhawk is where I've been sporting clays over in Fishhawk is actually where it's at. So he comes up to me and he starts asking me about what is the number one thing I see in shooters, and I said they cannot let go of their results. Period. It's the
Mhm.
number one thing that I deal with in training and coaching and classes is they cannot let go of their results. So I hear all the time, I've never moved and shot on steel. I don't think I can do it. Okay. How about just walking and pulling the trigger when the sights land on the steel? Let's start with simple walking. And then all of a sudden they start walking and they go bing, 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 bing. And they look at me and they're like, I go, isn't that crazy? When you focused on something that didn't have to do with the score, it just magically appeared with bullets on it. Right.
Mhm.
So, and that's the hardest thing. And the second hardest thing is getting people to go faster. Like it is so difficult to get people to understand that you shoot way faster than you are right now. But how do you get them to do that? Because what they do is they go right to the trigger. I'm just going to rip the gun. I'm like, yeah, but then look at your shitty hits, right? Like
Mhm.
accuracy always matters, but accuracy falls because you're going faster than you can see. Once your eyes catch up, then all of a sudden your scores come back. Did that make you a more accurate shooter, or were you always the accurate shooter, but you lost your accuracy because you were going faster than you can see? That's exactly what it is. You didn't lose your accuracy. You
Mhm.
didn't become less accurate. You didn't all of a sudden go faster and become more accurate. You were just as accurate as you were before, but now you're doing new things at higher speed. So it takes time for your brain to catch up. And then you'll do that again, and your accuracy will seem like it went down, but it really didn't. It's just that you're going faster than you can see again. So then all of a sudden, those Charlies or those mics turn into Deltas. And then you go faster. And now all of a sudden, those Deltas turned into Charlies. And then you get to like that point, you're probably a master because now you're shooting Alpha Charlie, Alpha Charlie, Alpha Charlie. All of a sudden, you get to that next level of speed. And then you start shooting Alphas. And now you're getting 4 Charlies instead of 8 Charlies.
Mhm.
Right. Now you're a grandmaster and you didn't even think about it. It just happened because you just kept pushing the speed limit, pushing the speed limit, pushing the speed limit. So, I mean, listen, you cannot slow down in this sport. You just can't. This weekend proved it. Like
Yeah.
my hits versus Nils and John were right on the money. Right. And I talked to Nils about a little bit about it at the end of the match. He goes, dude, you ended up having to shoot more conservative because you were trying to make up shots that you really didn't need to make up. So my alpha count was 291. Nils was 303, right? John's was 295. I was 291. I had 5 delta. John had 4 delta. Nils had none. That guy sucks, by the way. Uh, it's just, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things where you're looking at your scores and you're like, well, I was right there, but I was so conservative, I lost in time. And that's not how I shoot. So I didn't get to shoot like myself for whatever reason, but we'll see. I got area 4. I'm getting my damn revenge on myself, not even anybody else. I just want to shoot like me at this match and do what I do.
Right, because you're gonna leave what? Today's Tuesday, so you're leaving tomorrow, right?
I leave Friday. No, leaving Friday. So
Okay.
I don't shoot till Saturday, Sunday for that match. So I'll come in Friday. I try to take one-way flights, even though it costs me usually in my sleep.
Yeah.
But those one-way flights sure are nice when you're in the air for 2.5 hours versus on a trip for 8, because you're, layover after layover after layover. So I will sacrifice a little sleep so I can get home sooner and spend time with my family or whatever, get out of here early. But it works out pretty good for me so far. I'm probably going to change that as I travel more, because the sleep thing, if I don't sleep the night before, the next day is worthless. Monday, I mean, there's a couple days that I've been coming home from matches and I didn't get a lot of sleep, and dude, I can't even stay awake. I'm falling asleep on the couch. So I lose an entire day. It becomes worthless. It's like, okay, well, I could have just came in later and actually had a normal sleep instead of being a damn zombie for the next day. It's just worthless. Wasted the day anyway.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Monday was rough for me. So I was like, I should have taken the day off.
I actually did well, man. I had, I stayed at Matt's and I actually went to bed at a decent hour. I got about 5 hours of sleep and then I slept on the plane. So I actually got like real sleep. Normally I get 2 hours of sleep and then get on that plane. So it's like, yeah, that doesn't do well. But it worked out good, man. So yeah, brother, it was great seeing you. I'm glad I didn't get to see much at Area 5. You were busy working, and we got out of there a little bit early before you guys finished. So
yeah, it was all good. I mean, I got to see you. I got to watch you bang some stages away, and not as well as you'd hope to, but it's always a pleasure to see you, especially giving Matt shit, because everyone deserves to give Matt Kobe shit. Well,
he did well, dude. I was proud of him. He did really well. He didn't quit. He didn't get down on himself.
I don't think he could quit because he was driving you around.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't. I'd have beat his ass.
Like, I'm not going home.
Yeah, but it was nice, dude. It was good to see him. I haven't seen him in a long time, so it was cool. We got to hang out a little bit and spend some time together. So hopefully he'll be. I'm trying to get him to come to PCC Nats, but I don't know if he's going to make it. I think he got in late, and then I don't think they need staff at all or anything. So I think it's going to be hard for him to get into that. But plus, I mean, dude, you got to think about it, man. You start a new job. He's been at his new job for less than a year. It's almost a year, and he's going to have, you're just on vacation. This stuff takes a lot of time out of your life if you, because he's certainly in using vacation to practice. I promise you that. Yeah. I love that part of your podcast when you go, so what about those sponsors? And I'm like, this is going to be good. He's like, man, I'm not that guy. And then you're like, what's your training regimen? And he's like, I'm not that guy. I was like, dude, that is the best. But it was pretty funny. So, but all right, brother, we'll wrap it up. You got anything? Tell us all about your sponsors. Whoop, whoop. Tell them about your podcast too, bro.
Well, we will. But first, we got to plug the class we're doing up here.
Oh, that's right.
In August, 19th and 20th. There's plenty of slots still available, if I'm correct.
I think we're half full, dude.
Really? All right. That's an update for myself.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I had a couple people sign up, but I haven't really paid attention till I get closer.
Good. So yeah, the 19th and 20th of August at Brooklyn Sportsman's Club, where Area 5 was. So it's we're going to be using the dreaded Bay 5. So your feelings will be better about that bay. You'll get some learning on. So anyway, there's that class. But the podcast, Mani Talk Shooting, is going strong. An episode a week. We're 107 episodes. I want to think I'm recording tomorrow night. I'm sitting down with Craig. So by the time this comes out, that Craig's episode will be out too. Nice. So.
So Craig McElhaney, you guys know who that is, my buddy who comes on here all the time. Well, he hasn't been on a little bit, but Craig McElhaney, so that'd be cool, kind of check out. And he has always got a really interesting story because he's a fireman. He's been fireman, paramedic, retired, baby. Let's go. SWAT member for 26 years. So really, really great guy. So it should be a good podcast for you.
Yeah, it'll be great, and I'm glad to sit down with him and chit chat because he's a good dude, and We'll bang that out. We got a couple more coming up. Oh, God, it's I can't believe we're already past 100 episodes of that
Yeah,
podcast.
that's pretty cool.
It's a lot of hard work, dedication, and I think my wife, she won't listen to this, but I thank her greatly for her patience and her her understanding of my dreams and passions. So,
That's cool.
but yeah, so the partners we have with the podcast, I'm very lucky. Bill Duda, Go Fast, Don't Suck. I wear this hat not because it's close, but it also covers my receding hairline. So I have to wear a hat now. It just works that way for me. So, but Brian at Hunters HD Gold, he's been supportive of the podcast. If I ask for something, he's like, how high do I need to jump? I'm like, thanks, Brian. Our mutual sponsor, Jason Bunderson of Dominate Defense, best belts in the business by far none.
Love
And
that
then
belt, dude.
well, and it's even funnier. And then we got Nathan Dively of Div Tech, the best magnets out there too. I don't use mine like you use yours, but I use mine every stage. It just holds my main mag.
Yeah.
But
I use
Nathan,
mine for only when I have to.
yeah,
I
but
was
yeah,
knocking my shit off of there.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
who else we got? We got Jason. We got Targets USA. I mean, shit, like half of our people we hang out, we deal with are the same.
That's awesome.
What else we got? Chile Custom Gunworks. They make some of the finest 2011 parts out there. He was the title sponsor of the match. Um, my guns run flawless. So after I figured out like some of the safety issues that I had that needed to be trimmed down, not his fault obviously, but so Chile Custom Gunworks makes awesome parts. Range Panda, Eric Steiner's been supportive and he's been good for me too because he's someone really to like look after and chase because we all know he shoots really good stages yet he also has dumpster fires. So it's a real
Dude, he's
person.
gotten better about the dumpster fire. He's not
Yeah.
having as many. He's looking pretty good, man.
Yeah, he just needs to get that G card next to his name for open finally.
Yeah, I think he's smart standing master, in my opinion.
Right? Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot easier in there. A hell of a
Yeah.
lot easier. But even still hard. I mean, listen, there's still a lot of great shooters at master. They just haven't hit the card yet.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and then we've got Laugh and Load. They make my official T-shirts. I gotta get some of those made up for the class because I just need to give everybody a fucking T-shirt or something. But
That's cool.
what else do I have? Is that everybody? If I forgot, oh, Summit City Bullets. I partnered with them recently. I'm helping their company grow a little bit on the on the side of getting out there, and they're the reason they sponsored a bay at Area 5. I was like, that's a good way to spend your money, and especially when he didn't realize you send certs. You don't send product. You send certs, and then if nobody turns it in, it's not money you got to give away.
That's right. Which is what most people don't do. They don't turn the stuff in a lot of times. It's crazy.
Yeah, but I think if I missed anybody, I feel bad, but I don't have a list in front of me. That's the hard part.
That's because it's not your podcast, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, listen, when you talk to Craig, just so you know, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but Craig is one of the reasons I started coaching. Actually, he is the reason I started coaching. I have another buddy, Dwayne Spires, who kind of inspired me to go to the next level of where I'm at right now, or where I was. But Craig met me. I met him at Area 6. We've been friends almost 5 years now.
Mhm.
And I met him at Area 6 the first year I shot PCC there. And he was like, look, dude, do you ever coach? And I happened to beat Maxley Agrandis on a stage, and which I sucked. I didn't know, but I beat him on a stage, and actually I beat him on 2 stages at that match. He beat my butt. I just kept falling out of bounds. Like I was terrible. So I got a chance. Craig walked up and I was talking to my buddy Ryan, and he comes up and he goes, hey, do you do any classes or whatever? And I go, I actually have thought about it a little bit. And I was like, all right, man, I will do a class because you asked. And I set my class up around his schedule. I changed the dates on my class like 3 or 4 times just to make sure he was in it. And yeah, it was pretty cool. It was really cool. And we've been friends, dude. We're like really, really best friends. Like I talk to that guy every single day, a couple times a day sometimes. So, I mean, I know his wife, his kid, like he's awesome. He's one of my favorite people in the world, man. I could talk to that guy about anything. So he's just a great guy.
Yeah, and
So,
I can't wait to get to know him, and we'll bang it out and make a banging podcast. That's for sure.
that's pretty awesome. Yeah, he's cool, dude. He's got a lot of really good stuff. That guy's got so many stories. Just I don't know how many stories he can tell on your podcast. Because he's a fireman for 20 something years, man. He sees a lot of shit. Let me tell you what. He sees a lot of shit. So he's an interesting guy to get to know. He's cool as shit. He's just a great down to earth guy. You know what I mean? Like he's just a normal guy that just he's awesome. Like that guy a lot. But so, all right, brother, everybody, if you're interested in a class, obviously Alex talked about it. I got a class in Michigan. I have a class in Virginia coming up. I have a class in Pennsylvania coming up. I'm going to try to put another Florida class together. Somebody asked me about doing one, but I'm ready. Let's get it. I got 2 weeks till nationals. I have area 4 coming up this weekend. I'm excited to go shoot there. It looks like there's going to be some good heat. I want to get my, I want to get a little revenge back on Nils because he's going to be there. So I'm excited to see him. It looks like Christian Seiler's shooting that match. So hopefully, well, this podcast will come out on Monday. So we'll see if that, it'll be after the match. So we'll see how I did, but, kind of a little prequel, I guess, talking about it, but it's going to be fun. I'm excited. I had a really good practice. I got to practice tomorrow. And all I'm focusing on is vision right now, trying to clean up a lot of my mess. But if you guys have any questions, hit me up and I'll see you on the range.